Roll humps to all my fighting camels worldwide. I'm your quarterback, Hodge Malik Williams, and you're listening to the Orange and Black Podcast.
What's up, everyone? Welcome into another edition of the Orange and Black Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the King Camel Grill, located at 174 North McKinley Street in downtown Coates, right up the road from campus. You can come on over to the King Camel Grill to enjoy their award-winning wings and burgers before or after any Campbell home game. Dylan Campbell is coming off of a bye week, a chance to regroup, relax a little bit, take some time off, but a big one coming up this Saturday as Campbell welcomes in Maine for homecoming. That's always a big game every single year, not only for the football team and the football program, but for the entire university. Dylan, how you doing today, and what are you thinking about this Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, definitely a bye week, but we're gonna jump right into the craziness of homecoming. There's gonna be a lot of things happening. Homecoming usually the big hoopla with different exhibitions and different sports going on centered around the football game uh during the afternoon. So it's gonna be a crazy day. But yeah, it's perfect to come back off a bye week against a team that's kind of been struggling this season, and it should be interesting to see what happens in this game. First time playing Maine this year, so I we'll get into the stats in just a second. But yeah, this is gonna be an interesting week off a bye week and right into the hoopla of homecoming week.
Yeah, Dylan Campbell is coming off a bye week, but more importantly, they're coming off of a win before the bye week. You know, sometimes you get that loss heading into the bye week and it can kind of kill the entire vibe. But when you get that win before they were able to defeat Hampton on the road and get back on the right track in CAA play, they're able to get that win and go into the bye week with some winning momentum. And that gets a different vibe in the locker room when guys are just relaxing and kind of regrouping. You still have some light practices and some walkthroughs, to kind of stay in the groove, but not as intense as a game week. But that's great whenever you can come off a win. But Campbell now welcomes in Maine on Saturday, and it'll be a tough test. Maine has not won a road game this season, but Campbell has not won a home game this season with the two that they played. So one of those statistics is going to have to budge, and we'll see what happens on Saturday. We'll get a little bit more into Maine here in a second, Dylan. But what do you see from this Maine Black Bears team whenever they come into Barker Lane Stadium at 4 p.m. on Saturday?
It's kind of two versions of Maine, and Maine's had a really tough schedule. They probably stack up between the toughest schedules in FCS. I mean, in a 3 week span, you're at number 2 North Dakota State, always a hard team, former champions of the FCS. Then you're hosting Rhode Island, number 21 at that time, which is always a hard game. And then you're at William and Mary, which was number 5 at the time. So that's always a hard schedule, especially when you're in the FCS, and that's just a gauntlet of that 3 weeks right there. Just really, really tough. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, but and then to come back, get your first CAA win against Stony Brook in impressive fashion. And then they go to Richmond, lose that game, and then come back last week, get the L versus Long Island University, or get the win versus Long Island University. So it's kind of the record. I wouldn't put too much into the record because when you face 3 teams in the top 25, that's no fun at all in 3 weeks. And then you host your first, or you go on the road your first game against a FIU team that you lose to by 2 points, which is always hard. So I think you start kind of looking into the CAA minus Rhode Island, William Mary. Those are top 25 teams, always going to be hard. You look at Stony Brook. Stony Brook's kind of the bottom of the CAA. You should be winning those games. Going on the road to Richmond. Richmond's obviously above in terms of the CAA, with the impressive CAA stretch. So that'll be a tough game. And then you're out of conference versus Long Island, getting that win. And then you come back and you face an impressive Campbell team. It's not a fun year for Maine, but it's kind of ups and downs. And then you take a 3-week stretch that's just really, really hard, and you put that into their schedule, and then you kind of look at outside of that. So these Maine Black Bears are kind of up and down this season.
Yeah, they have definitely been tested early in the season, put through the gauntlet, and Campbell was able to face William and Mary as well, so they know what they're going up against. They lost to Richmond, as you mentioned. Campbell will play Richmond the following week, so it'll be a good barometer to see really where the Camels are over the next 2 games and where they really stand in CAA play. And as they look from the outside looking in on the FCS playoffs, Dylan, this Maine team has been tested, but if there is one thing that you can definitely look at is they are going to pass the football on Saturday. They averaged 238 yards a game through the air. That's 6th in the CAA, and they only average 87 yards on the ground, and that ranks dead last in the CAA. So when we look at this Maine team on the offensive side of the ball, they're definitely going to want to sling it around. And one thing to take note of is their wide receiver Joe Gillette. He's tallied 20 catches for 367 yards and 5 touchdowns over his last 3 games. That's fallen after only hauling in 9 catches with no touchdown in their first 4 games. So started the season off slow, and he's really picked it up as of late. So it's going to be an aerial attack, and you got to look at them getting it to Gillette there.
Yeah, I mean, Gillette's going to be their main guy, but their QB is slinging the ball. I mean, he's already got 1,500 yards this season, 10 touchdowns, seven interceptions. So you're looking at that interceptions as the big key. Hopefully, you get some picks. Prone to the picks.
Take the good with the bad if you're a Maine fan there.
Exactly. I mean, 10 touchdowns is probably somewhere in the FCS tops, or in the top 20 at least. In terms of, like you said, there's gonna be throwing the ball, and it's not just Joe Gillette. They got another guy, Montego Moss, who's got a lot of catches as well. I mean, he's got 22 catches for 305 yards and 3 TDs himself. So he's going to be right there alongside Joe Gillette. And then Jamie Lawson is kind of their third wide receiver. He's got 22 catches this year. So, I mean, they got pretty much 6 to 7 wide receivers with 100+ yards. So, you know what you're going to get with this Maine offense being pass heavy. And then you can kind of not worry about the rushing as much. I mean, Tristan Keenan also has 5 touchdowns this season on the ground, so you still have to worry about it, but not as much as a William and Mary and Bronson Yoder type. So it is kind of the vice versa. With William and Mary, you so worry about the run with William and Mary, and with Maine, you're not worried about the run, you're worried about the passing. So I think it gives that run defense a little break. It puts that pass defense that's been really, really good on shine this week, and I think they'll do well against this Maine offense.
Yeah, we've talked about it all year. This defense for Campbell is fast, and they're very talented. And on the outside, they can keep up with just about anybody. But it has been the run game that has gashed them in games where they just couldn't hold on throughout the full 4 quarters. So this is a chance for Campbell to really rely on that passing defense and, just take out the run game completely at the beginning, and then really force them to just throw the ball and see if you can shut it down. It's going to be what they love to do and what you know that you can stop. So we'll see what the Camels can do on Saturday. Dylan, moving over to the defensive side of the ball, kind of hard to tell exactly how good this defense is for the Black Bears. As you mentioned, they played a lot of talented teams, an FBS team, and some really high-powered offensives on the FCS level. But in Big South, Dylan, what am I doing? I'm so glad to be out of that.
Come on, yeah,
I can't even believe
I past
said
that. Come on, Andrew.
That's
marker number 1 on Big South.
Yeah, they had Big South Basketball Media Day this week, and I think everyone in the chat was consensus happy that we are no longer in that league. So I apologize to the CAA for even comparing the Big South and the CAA there. Anyway, in CAA play, This Black Bears team, they've allowed 29 points per game. That's ninth in the CAA, and their total defense ranks 13th out of 15th in the league. So they're giving up a lot of yards. They're giving up a hefty amount of points. So we'll see if this Campbell offensive attack can remain balanced like we saw 2 weeks ago against Hampton, wherever they were able to throw the ball and run the ball effectively. We'll see if they can do that against this defense that has allowed a lot of yards and a lot of points this year. Dylan, what do you see on the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, it's like you said, it's kind of gash them early, and hopefully we can put them to bed very early. There's not one guy that kind of stands out. Tyshawn Stewart leads them in total tackles. And Isaiah Henderson, I mean, you kind of got to watch out for him. He's got 6 TFLs on the season with 32 total tackles with him. So I mean, there is something to be worried about. And then Abdul Stewart has 3 picks, so hopefully Hodgley can limit the picks. But there is some guys to look out for. Even though this defense is ranked 13th out of 15th in the CAA. But there is still something to worry about. This Maine defense is not a total write-off in terms of the CAA. It's not like the Big South where we can write off some defenses, but with Maine, that this defense is still needs to be worried about when you go in there Saturday. But you want to use that homecoming crowd to your advantage. Get up early, get up often. Hopefully, we could put 28 in the bag really, really early against this talented defense and kind of put them to bed early, because I think that's been the issue. We get up big so early in these games. I mean, NC Central to be one, Hampton was another. Those games we were up big early, couldn't finish the job. So you want to get up early and just kind of take the will out of this main defense, and hopefully use that homecoming crowd and get them amped up really early, really often.
Yeah, Dylan, it'll be a good test for the Camels on Saturday. One thing to note about that defense is, yes, they've given up a lot of yards. They've given up a good amount of points, but they rank 2nd in the CAA in turnovers forced and 5th nationally with 14 turnovers forced this season. So it'll be key for the Camels to hold on to the football. If Hodgley Williams can just make good decisions like he's done all year, that'll be good. And then the running backs and receivers are going to need to hold on to that ball whenever they're going down. But that'll be something to keep an eye on. And really, whenever you're able to force 14 turnovers through 7 games, I mean, you're averaging 2 a game there. So that can really keep you in some ball games, even when it's ugly and not really even that close. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. Is Campbell's going to need to keep their hands on the football and not turn it over on Saturday. Dylan, it's good to have football back and good to be able to get back into the groove of things. It was kind of nice to not have to worry about watching the game on Saturday. But you give us your final thoughts and your predictions for this game on Saturday as Campbell kind of really gears back up in the CAA play.
Yeah, I mean, it was good to watch that crazy Oregon versus Washington game that happened on Saturday. So it was good to watch points galore and Oregon just kind of buffering it at the end. But I think this is gonna be a good game. Also, shout out to BJ Wilkins, who was on the midseason watch list for the Jerry Rice award, which is the top freshman in the FCS, excuse me. So there's 4 other CAA members on that as well, but hopefully VJ can be right there at the end and hopefully pull it out. But yeah, this should be a good game. If you want to see Campbell offense and Hodge Malik shine, this is going to be the game for it. I think coming off a bye week, you're going to be coming into a game where you're not going to be as stressed. You're going to be wanting to do a lot of your work early and often, and then hopefully get some guys out there that don't play as often and get some shine. But I think you want to put this to bed early and prove a point out of the bye week that we're here and we're going to take the back half of our schedule really seriously. With, like you said, we said in past podcasts, is this back half of the schedule, with Maine and Richmond, hopefully 2 winnable games, and then it's going to turn into a gauntlet at the end. So you want to prove a point here, get you guys back in kind of the football shape, and then get them eyes looking forward towards the back half of the season.
Yep, you definitely swing into the second half of the season here. A good time for the bye week, right in the middle of the season. But everything is ahead of this team. If they can handle business and, win out all their FCS games and see what happens in Chapel Hill, even though in the grand scheme of things, that's not going to make a huge difference as you're looking at the end of the year. But Campbell has everything ahead of them. As we take a look at their upcoming schedule, they do, like this weekend, they have Maine, then they go to Richmond. As we mentioned, they head to Chapel Hill on November 4th before Senior Day, where they welcome in nationally ranked Delaware, and then they close out the season on November 18th at North Carolina A&T, a familiar opponent there. So a lot of winnable games there. Delaware will definitely be the biggest test, but one game at a time for head coach Mike Minter and his Fighting Camels. Dylan, let's jump into some of the other sports real quick, and then we can talk a little bit of maybe some baseball and the CAA office and other fun stuff like that.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of different sports going on, and we can also talk about the homecoming schedule at the end. But let's start out at men's golf, which they had a spectacular week. Just compared to the how the season's been going, went through the Georgetown Intercollegial and finished third. At that, beating teams like Eastern Michigan, Georgetown themselves, Richmond, a CAA opponent, if you want to call it in golf, but a familiar opponent now, and William and Mary as well. So, congratulations to the men's golf team for a top 5 and top 3 finish for them. And also congratulations to Joachim Larson Tenger, who is the top Campbell finisher at +3, tied for 10th. So congratulations to them. That's a big statement towards their back half of the year, as they have 2 more tournaments left to go before they get to the CAA tournament and down in South Carolina. So that's good for them. A great kind of stamp of approval on the schedule for them. So congratulations to them. Move on to men's soccer. They only have 1 game this week at Elon. Unfortunately, losing that game 2-3 with Tyrese Chisholm with a brace, scoring his second goal in the 84th minute to make it close, so they just couldn't tie up the game. So unfortunate loss, high scoring game, but congratulations to Tyrese Chisholm for that brace. I think that'll be his 5th goal of the season for them. Women's soccer had a outstanding game, if you want to say the least. Andrew, I don't know if you watched this game. I kind of peered into it when I started getting text messages about this, but women's soccer, I guess, had something to prove in Hampton.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. 6-0, they beat Hampton. And I think the biggest stat that I saw, we had 29 shots compared to 2 on their side, and I think we had 17 on goal.
Yeah, crazy. Was that shots on goal or just regular
shots on goal was 17, and I think they had 1 shot on goal, but overall they had 29
regular shots.
Yeah, regular shots.
But yeah,
29.
that's still crazy.
Yeah, and there was 6 different scorers as well. So I guess women's soccer had aggression to get out, and the Pirates were just right there for the taking. But that is a huge win for women's soccer, making it their 4th on the year for them. But yeah, absolutely crazy scenes in Hampton, Virginia. And then we'll go to another big win for volleyball at home versus the College of Charleston on the 14th and 15th. 2 sweeps. That's what you love to see. You puts them at 10-10 right now, which is what you want when you get to this part of the schedule, you want to see those sweeps. You want to take two, not just split them. And then if you look at the standings for them, 7-3, Townsend 8-2, and you're tied 7-3 with Northeastern Delaware. So you're right up there in terms of the top of the conference. Hopefully we can gain some more, maybe get into the top two seeds and close out that. So I think it would make a huge difference and the confidence will be skyrocketing for volleyball. If we can get some wins wrapping up. I think that's what Coach Cole wanted when he made that schedule. Is you're hoping when you get towards College of Charleston and then some of these games against one opponent that's going to be right near you and a couple opponents that are kind of below you, that should be easy, sweet weekends. And then you're going to the CAA tournament looking like the queens of the CAA. So this should be good for volleyball. Congratulations to them. 3-0 sweeps for volleyball, putting them 10-10 on the season.
Yeah, Dylan, heading back over to women's soccer. So how and then we'll talk about volleyball because there's a lot of exciting stuff going on there. But just basically, women's soccer has 2 games left. So they're kind of in the final stages of their season, which for everyone who works in the athletic department, I'm sure they're happy, even though they won't say it. I know I would be smiling if I was still working at Campbell and there was only 2 games left. But Campbell only has 2 games left. 6 teams make the CAA women's soccer tournament. Right now, 4 teams have already clinched a spot. That's Hofstra, Towson, Monmouth, and Northeastern. Campbell is currently sitting in the 8th place spot, but they sit there with 11 points with 3 games left to go. So they can get a max of 6 more points, and that would put them at 17. So they basically need to win their next 2 games and hope that somebody else loses to have a chance to play in the CAA tournament. But we'll see how all that plays out this week. But left on their schedule, the Camels have Elon this Thursday at home, and then they travel to Monmouth, who's been really solid this season. And they play that game this Sunday. So a big 2 games coming up for the Camels. We'll see if they can pull it out and make a push to make it into the CAA women's soccer tournament. Dylan, I'm going to hop back over to women's volleyball. You touched on it some, but Campbell has four series left, basically. 4 series left in the rest of their season. You have Northeastern at home this weekend. Then you travel to Hofstra, and then you have Hampton and at North Carolina A&T. Northeastern sits right above Campbell in the standings right now. That's just based off like a head-to-head and who they've beaten. But they both have a 7-3 record. And then you have Hofstra, who is right below Campbell. So if Campbell is able to, let's say, go 3-1 over these next 4 games, then he can really close out the season against Hampton and A&T. Let's be honest, those are some matches that you should be able to sweep those 2 series. And then Campbell can be really sitting pretty as they head into the CAA tournament there on the volleyball side.
Yeah, I mean, and also the note that I was doing my research, and Northeastern pretty much got a bye week this week. They were supposed to play in Hampton. Hampton had to forfeit both of their games this weekend due to some health concerns. So Northeastern got a 2 free wins and a bye week because that's the rules in the CAA. If you have to forfeit, you get 2 wins. So Northeastern pretty much got a bye week. So it's going to be interesting to see when they come into town. You're kind of in the motion of doing that week, and then you kind of have a free week, so a bye week if you want to call it. So it's going to be interesting to see what Northeastern looks like when they come into town, pretty much off a weird bye week, if you want to put it there. So just that note, I was interested to see that. You don't see it much often now, but Northeastern is going to be interesting coming off that essential bye week.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big one this weekend and a lot going on around campus. So everyone who's on campus for homecoming, be sure to head over to the volleyball game on Saturday, especially. And you're going to be able to see a great match and hopefully see Campbell continue to propel themselves. As we've talked about, and you've definitely mentioned all throughout this fall, is Coach Goral likes to challenge himself in the non-conference. You don't get those pretty wins early, but you're able to be ready for conference play and when it really matters, which is right now as you hit the final stretch of your season and head into the conference tournament, which we've seen year after year over the previous 4 years or so, where Coach Goral has had the ladies ready to go during tournament time and leading to some regular season titles and some tournament titles as well. So good stuff there for the ladies on the court. Dylan, kind of sad as we were scrolling down through our notes, we just have to pass over the baseball schedule that we already have in our hands. We touched on it last week, but a lot of exciting stuff going on there. And we'll touch on that when it officially comes out. We don't want to ruin anything and get in trouble. But some exciting matchups there. We can talk about the hump, some renovations that went in there. They put in some like tiered steps almost out there in right field. So that'll be a cool new addition for Jim Perry Stadium this upcoming season. Dylan, just a lot of baseball content in general. D1 Baseball was out there last week that we touched on some and talking about some of the arms on the mound and some guys that we can see behind, out in the field. But we've seen a lot of content on Twitter or X, which is good. And a lot of it has been talking about how Campbell is a mid-major mainstay and a powerhouse, and how it's just a continual reload process as opposed to rebuild for head coach Justin Hare.
Yeah, I think the big question, since a lot of guys leaving, like you said on the last pod, is what Coach Hare is going to do. And Coach Hare did classic Coach Hare, where he has him and his guys go out to these JUCO colleges and take a look at these guys either there or at tape, and get them to come to Campbell. And if you read the D1 baseball report, if you haven't, you can go to our Discord chat. Andrew has lovely posted the whole entire report. I appreciate that, Andrew, for that. And kind of the report just did a breakdown the whole entire team. And you kind of look at it, and the first thing out of my mind was, this is classic Coach Hare. Coach Hare's got to go into the JUCO colleges, bring some freshmen in, and just reload again. He's still got some mainstays on the team. With Chance to Willa, the Mr. Shohei Ohtani himself, Grant Knipp. You got the Law and Order, Lawson Harrell, coming back, and a bunch more guys. I mean, Dalen Thompson, Peyton Howard, you can go on. So you have some veterans on this team, and then you get some new guys in here that come in. And you just kind of broke it down, and there's gonna be competition. The veterans that are out there are still gonna have to prove that they deserve a spot in the starting lineup, and you're gonna have to prove that you want a spot in the bullpen, or you want to spot in the rotation. I mean, the rotation is going to have a lot of veterans with Chance and Jackson Roberts, and then some newcomers in there as well. So it's going to be the same old Coach Hare. You're going to have some veterans mixed in with some JUCO guys who want to prove that they belong in this level of competition. And I think we're still getting more guys. We had another guy from Southern Miss come to Campbell. Hopefully he can get approved and ready to go for this season. Just adds another guy, and I'm pretty sure we're not done recruiting. Coach Hare's always out there looking, and like you said, I look at the schedule and I just can't wait to talk about it. It's going to be a fun schedule with a lot of interesting nuggets and interesting matchups that Campbell have, and I think it's going to be tons of fun throughout the season. And this team's gonna be fun this season. I think the pressure's on, and D1 Baseball put it at the end and said what they believe as the best mid-major team. So that's a big statement to put on this team, and that's going to put a target on their back as they begin the season.
Absolutely. It'll be a fun spring. Still some time to wait. And in between now and then, we obviously have the conclusion of the football season. Hopefully, Campbell's first ever berth into the FCS playoffs. And then basketball season starts literally in a few weeks. The Creek Madness, which is kind of the kickoff to basketball season, is Thursday, October 26th. That is in Gore Arena at 7 p.m. So you can go out for that. That's always free. You can kind of meet the team and stuff like that. And then Campbell opens up the season on Thursday, or it's not Thursday, it's a Monday, I believe, November the 4th against Navy. And that'll be, I completely lied to you. It is Monday, November the 6th against Navy as they kick off their season. That's one of the bigger home games for the Camels this season. So a great chance to come out and see the team and kind of get an early test for the guys on the court. Women's basketball in the same boat. They start on November 6th as well. So that's one of those where it's going to be a doubleheader where you're going to have the women play in North Carolina Wesleyan at 5:30 inside Gore Arena, followed by the men's team later that evening. The game will be at 8 o'clock. So that'll be fun. We're going to try to talk with head coach Kevin McGeehan as we inch closer to the season. Wanted to give him a little time to get into practice and stuff like that and kind of get situated. But it should be a fun one as we approach the season. Dylan, a lot of we'll jump into this kind of the CAA and some flow sports in general here, but we've had some complaints about flow sports and stuff. I have after that football game at Hampton, I was vocal about some like the score bug not being on there. And I want to give a personal shout out to the CAA commissioner, Joe D'Antonio. He emailed me back after I sent him an email, and he called me personally the next day and wanted to hear my concerns and told me that there is a process in the works is a standardized score bug across all sports for all schools. But there's just some funding that has to go behind that. And it's a little more complicated than just flipping a switch. And Dylan, as you and I know, we both worked in athletics. That is typically the case, that there's a lot more behind the operation than just flipping a switch. But I just want to a lot of respect to Commissioner D'Antonio for doing that and just showing that he cares. And that means a lot to a lot of us. Everyone that I told, they were super impressed that he did that. So a lot of respect to him and everyone up at the CAA office. That's awesome. But with the gripes that we've had with the flow sports deal, the beauty of it is it does offer a chance for CAA men's basketball games to be on CBS Sports Network this winter. That schedule was released today. Campbell will have two of those games, both inside Gore Arena, one against Elon and then one against UNCW. So Gore Arena and Bowie Creek will be able to be on national television twice this year. And that is a great chance for all the fans to go and be in the stands and cheer it on and show how great the Creek is. But Dylan, what are your thoughts? It's just awesome to be on national television again, as opposed to just like one or two wild card games that you might not even get with the old Big South deal.
Yeah, and it kind of to your point, and kind of I guess but since we're not in ESPN, I can kind of share this without getting in trouble now. So when we were on ESPN Plus, we and kind of fix my mistakes if I'm wrong, but we would get a package from ESPN that we record that would have the original score bugs that ESPN wanted, because it's if you look at the ESPN telecast, it's very standardized. And then our team, led by Charles Phillips, and some of the people that work in the truck, go in before the games and then kind of fill in those graphics to make them really nice and pretty, as you see on ESPN. I'm not sure how Flow works. I haven't talked to anybody. I would like to talk with.
They don't give them anything.
Yeah, you don't get anything. So you're kind of building the graphics for freehand. I would believe that Flow Sports is going to probably do something standardized down the road. Hopefully. Otherwise, we have a great team that will build those graphics. And like you said, it looks like we're just kind of waiting on some funding to get a standardized score bug. So I think once that happens, which hopefully will be here pretty soon, we can get that going. But I appreciate the commissioner reaching out to you, Andrew, and you sharing that information with us. So in that the CAA in terms of just TV itself, putting us on CBS Sports Network is great coverage for us. I think it, and personally, my opinion, you're guaranteed these two games, so it's better than having a wild card weekend where you don't know until pretty much like Tuesday, Wednesday, you're playing on ESPNU. With the CBS Sports Network, they already released their schedule. Campbell knows when they're playing, and we can hype it up more. Our team at Athletics can use that time to hype these games up, so we can get a big crowd there, and show what Gore Arena is like. I mean, being there at Gore Arena, my 4 years at Campbell. Gore Arena can get packed really quickly, and it can get really wild. And hopefully for those two games, I believe against Elon and UNCW, with especially UNCW being a rivalry game, we could pack out Gore Arena and make it a very loud, a loud arena. And it will translate on air. So good for Campbell to get those two games on there. And hopefully we'll get some more. But it's good that right off the bat we know which two games are going to be on nationally televised network, CBS Sport, CBS SN.
Yeah, and there is one wild card slot. That's the final day of the regular season. So you have to imagine if there's two teams at the top of the standings, or that has some implications for the CAA tournament, that game will get flexed on to CBS Sports Network there. And then heading into the tournament, which will be held in Washington, D.C., CBS Sports Network will also televise the semifinals and finals of the CAA Men's Basketball Championship. So a lot of national publicity. And even when Campbell's not playing, you're still getting that buzz. I mean, even if you're just looking at the standings, when it pops up and people see the name, you're still getting that national publicity. But obviously, really good for Campbell that both of their guaranteed games on CBS Sports Network will be at home in Buies Creek. And then all the other games, of course, will be on Flow Sports, where you can watch through their app there. But some exciting stuff there. We'll dive into some more basketball as we inch closer to the season, Dylan. I mean, it's a couple weeks away, so we'll have to get into it. But some exciting times, Dylan. Do you have any final thoughts before we sign off?
Yeah, just this week is going to be wild, especially kind of just going through the homecoming schedule. Starting Thursday, women's soccer, and then Friday is going to be crazy. 7 a.m. The Blues Creek Wrestling Club has a golf outing, and then there's another golf outing out of that. And then at 7 p.m., I know they've been hyping it on the Campbell Call podcast. But head over to the Harris Student Union Theater to see the Campbell Basketball School documentary. They've been working so hard on this. With the people over at Athletics having to take out their personal time to make this happen. And it's a very interesting stuff about Campbell Basketball School, with some interesting names that people probably didn't know that were on the campus of Campbell University, and know about Buies Creek. So 7 p.m. Harris Student Union Theater. Be there. It's going to be great. And I think they'll do a Q&A afterwards, so you can ask plenty of questions about the Campbell Basketball School and what that was all about. So that'd be neat. And then Saturday, Andrew, I would probably get your water ready to go, get your running shoes ready, because you're going to be all over the place. Starting bright and early at 9 a.m. Men's basketball's got an open scrimmage in Gore. And then right outside should be the Wrestling Orange and Black little scrimmage thing that they do at 11 a.m. And then from 12:30 to 4, the Alumni Village will be open, and then the Pepsi Tailgate Town will be right there as well. 12:45 will be the Campbell Walk. And then you want to run over to volleyball for admission. They're going to be at Gore Arena playing Northeastern. And once they wrap up, you're going to be wanting to run over to Barker Lane Stadium for the homecoming football game against Maine. And then if you're not tired of Campbell sports and you have a third, fourth, fifth, 16th wind, men's soccer is also going to be on campus starting at 7 against William and Mary. And then to top it all off, Sunday, 1 p.m. volleyball will have their second game against Northeastern and Gore Arena. So a lot of things happening on campus this weekend, especially Saturday. Get your running shoes ready to go because you're going to be hopefully all over the place with volleyball at 1, football game at 4 o'clock, and then men's soccer wrapping out the homecoming day on Saturday at 7 o'clock, and then volleyball getting the curtain jerker on Sunday at 1 p.m. Hopefully they'll be able to wrap that all up.
Dylan, sorry, while you were going through all that, I looked on Twitter and FIU and Sam Houston are playing tonight. They posted a picture of the stands. There's literally 8 people there.
Well, I mean, like who are they playing?
It's FIU, who is 3-4, 0-4 in their conference, versus 0-6 Sam Houston.
I call that a barn burner. What are you talking about? I mean,
speaking of barn burners, I didn't realize this, but our wrestling team is taking on Wyoming in a barn.
Wait, what?
Yeah, go look at the Campbell Wrestling Twitter. They quoted a Wyoming cowboy thing, the Wyoming wrestling page, and apparently it's called the Battle in the Barn. So Campbell's that one's gonna be on UFC Fight Pass as well. So Campbell's gonna be on UFC Fight Pass to open up the season at Fort Liberty. It's Fort Bragg in Fayetteville, and then they take on Wyoming, and they're wrestling in a barn.
Oh my God, it's in a barn in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
That's hold on. I understand Wyoming is probably the middle of nowhere. No offense to the University of Wyoming. This is a great concept, by the way.
Josh Allen is going to kill you if you talk crap about
Josh Allen. I have nothing bad to say about Wyoming. Also, their uniforms, if you want to call it, look pretty cool. For this battle, singlets. My bad. I couldn't get the word out. But the battle in the barn. Hats off to Wyoming. I mean, if you just look at the schedule, because if you have the Battle of the Barn, then you go to Las Vegas for the Las Vegas invite. And then so you're November 1st, your battle on Fort Bragg, which is gonna be insane. Anyways, UFC Fight Pass. And shout out to Campbell Wrestling Team to get a lot of this on UFC Fight Pass. That was a great deal for them to have, and is going to be a great deal for hopefully years to come if they can keep it. And I think it's great that we're getting that much exposure. So you have Fort Bragg, a barn, and then you're going to Las Vegas. Like, what kind
of? And you play at Nebraska, which is really good. You play at Virginia Tech, who competes for the ACC title every year. You go Purdue.
Shout out to my Hokies.
You play. Well, and then you welcome in Purdue, Stanford, and North Dakota State for a trio of home matches, which will be awesome.
Yeah, and this,
and I believe one of those is going to be on Fight Pass as well.
Yeah, I mean this wrestling team. I mean, we've been hyping them up. This is they're gonna be good. So if you want to see some good content, go to Fort Bragg, and then Nebraska's gonna be fun, and then watch them battle it out in a barn. I don't know how fans are gonna work at that. Do you how I mean
Wyoming, I don't think a lot of people can get tickets.
Yeah, so this is gonna be great coverage. This is gonna be interesting.
Try to go to the one in Fayetteville.
Yeah, that's gonna be great. I think last year, I saw footage of that, and it looked looked like a blast.
They had a giant plane in the background, and it was
Exactly. So I mean that's going to be great. I think that was actually their debut on UFC Fight Pass, so they made it spectacular. But um, I'm going to be watching the battle at the barn. I mean, why not? Yeah, shout out to Wyoming. That's all I got to say. That is incredible. To be battling out in an actual barn. So shout out to Wyoming.
Giddy up, Dylan. It's going to be a good one. Anyway, that's the exciting news of the day. It's just everywhere we look. But Dylan, another great week. Campbell plays this weekend for homecoming on Saturday as they welcome in Maine for a 4:00 p.m. kickoff. Fall ball's going on. Wrestling is fighting on military bases and barns. They're next thing we know, they're going to ride in on a real camel, and that'll be awesome.
Hey, don't tempt fate. Don't tempt fate. That might actually happen.
If they do that, I have to be there for that because I definitely want to take some pictures of that. And then basketball season is right around the corner, and we'll dive into that more in the coming weeks as we gear up for both the men's and women's basketball seasons. But Dylan, thanks for hopping on again. Everybody have a great week. Thanks for listening, and go Camels.